So let's talk about, just for the people that haven't been here, I'll give the quick overview, right? So new building, we moved here in September of 2023. Production was shut down for like a week and a half as we moved from our building on Lunt, which is like 2 blocks away to here. It's insane. The production floor is like maybe 2 times bigger than the building on Lunt. So maybe it was like around 75,000 square feet. This is around 130,000. In the factory, about 300 people come through every day to build games. And there's maybe 70 or so people that work in the office, right? So from sales and marketing and parts on that side. Upstairs is the C-suite and accounting and stuff like that. And then behind this wall is most of product development, right? So that is game designers, mechanical engineers, software people, flat artists, digital artists, and everything in between. So Dwight taught me everything I know about giving tours. I followed Dwight around a few times, and everything I know about giving tours.
Tours?
Yeah, you're the best tour guide at Stern.
Wait till you see if they like the tour first, then give me the tour.
How many of you guys have had a tour with me before? Did it suck?
Yeah. No.
See, thanks, Dwight. All right, let's go. Get out of here. Okay, new building, right? Why did we need a new building? Efficiency in manufacturing. Our old building, and I'll kind of touch on this, but the old building, things would have to crisscross back and forth to get from where it started to where it needs to be. So what we're going to do on our tour today is we'll start in wiring and cables. We'll go check out the cabinet line, then we'll walk down sub-assembly, and then we'll go and look at the playfield assembly line. Basically, most things over here start off as a unfinished good or just like a thing, and they end up over there as a finished product. Here's Andrew. He's amazing. And he's also,
Hi, everybody.
He's here now. Welcome. So yeah, let's go. Any questions before we start? No? Okay. Great. Come on, everybody. Okay. So here we are in the wiring area, is what I'll call it. We have 2 areas that deal with wiring harnesses. So this is like wire termination. Against the wall over there is where the actual harnesses are built. So these almost entirely women, because I like to say they're much more, they have a better attention to detail than most men do, and that is why women do most of these really important wiring works, building wiring harnesses. So these ladies are building harnesses. Like, what is a harness, right? A game is comprised of a lot of different wires that go from point A to point B. So the wiring harnesses are strung up over there, which we'll take a look at, but they're finished here. And finishing means stuff like this. Putting connectors on it, tinning the ends. If it's just a bare wire that needs to be soldered to something, they dip it in a pot of solder and gets it ready for the people on the line to actually solder it onto a lamp socket or a coil or something. So there's a lot of machines here that put pins on connectors. There's a lot of machines, these things, they measure wires to exact lengths, strip them, and then cut them. So that's almost all the automation we really have at Stern. Almost everything else is done by hand. I cannot stress that enough. Like, every bit of your pinball game is put together by hand. It's wild, especially in 2025, but it's the best way to do it. So what does it mean to set up a wiring harness, right? What time is it? They're not on break yet, but we can go in a little bit. So this is I don't want to take it off. This is what we use to build a wiring harness, right? So you have places where the wires need to start and stop, and they're listed with a color, right? So they get strung around this board of nails, and then once all the wires are where they need to be, they get zip tied, and then you have an unfinished harness. All of these boards all along this wall are all the pin boards we need to make like every game we've ever made. And most of them are listed by like a code name. So Vertigo is Jaws, Curves is Elvira, Falcon is Foo Fighters, Genie's Mandalorian. They're all here. So if we ever wanted to make that game again, we could just pull the wiring harness boards out and get them ready. Mike.
Is Buck LE code for Star Wars?
That's Star Wars, yep. So they're building a lot of stuff, right? Because we're ramping up for Star Wars now. So that was what Borgie wanted to call it.
I'll ask
everyone gets to come up with their own little code names, right? You know, John Wick was waffles, and that's because Elliot is correct in that waffles are better than pancakes. So these guys here, these are all test boards to test the wiring harnesses we make, right? So I like to emphasize this, like Stern Pinball, we make games, but we are a manufacturing company that just happens to make games, right? So we need to produce things and then produce things to test things, right? So what does that mean? Like here is a test board for testing something on Ghostbusters, right? So this gets hooked up to some sort of a computer. The wiring harnesses, they all get clipped into these little things, and then you push enter on the computer and it says yup or no, depending on if the wiring harness is right, right? So we have to not only tool up to make the games, we also have to tool up to test the things we make for the games, right? Does that make sense? You can't go to Ghostbusters Pinball Wiring Tester.com and get one of these, you know. They're all made by production engineers we have here. There's so many colors, right? But like, again, look at how manual all of this is, right? Even when they're done, the wiring harness, like this is pre-finishing. So those harnesses come from over there, they're grouped together, and then they are prepared to be going through the rest of this. There's automated stripping machines, but some things, the most efficient way to do it is have someone who is really skilled and knows what they're doing to prepare the wiring harness.
That's these ladies?
It's just, there's so much manual work that goes into making a game. I think that's what I really like to focus on when you come here, because it's kind of crazy.
They're all wearing red shirts. Is that for a reason?
Yeah, because they wanted to impress you guys with coordination. Team pride. Team pride. So here it's like, right, here's part of the inspection process, right? We're gearing up and tooling up for Star Wars. So here are a bunch of decals that came from our printing vendor, and they are being made sure everything looks good and intact if they're not, right? So we can reject them and get new ones made for the upcoming production. So that's, you know, quality inspection.
I'm assuming this is a layout sheet here.
Yeah, that's probably an uncut sheet is what I'm assuming, and what it should look like for reference for the people doing inspections.
Right, that's what I mean by
Yeah.
layout sheet.
Back there where the tower, another thing about this building is not only is it bigger, it's also taller, so it allows us to store a lot more parts. That is manufacturing stock, so that's where all of the parts live to run a game. If they say, hey, we need to build 5 Foo Fighters tomorrow, they will go through and pull everything on the bill of material to build 5 Foo Fighters and pull them out here ready to go, right? And that's different than the parts stock, which is over there, which is like where Marco and Pinball Life buy all of their like wear parts and cosmetics and stuff. Because, you know, Pinball Life isn't selling like playfield side rails and stuff like that. That's what all gets stored over there. So we're gonna touch on these really quick, and then we'll explain them a little bit later. These are drill plates and press plates. The playfields are made on a CNC router, but CNC routers can only make holes so big or use tools to a certain size. So in production, the engineers will come up with these drill plates, and this is where small holes will be done manually with like very small drill bits, like 2 to 3 millimeter small drill bits that a big CNC router can't use. The press plates are what's used in the Hannafin press, and we'll take a look at that once we get there. This is where, right, so everything on this side of the building generally starts off unfinished. Everything down there ends, right? So we're starting with cabinets. Our cabinets come in from the vendor. They are on carts. They get inspected, touched up if need be, made sure that they're up to standard, and then the decals start getting applied. Also on this line, you'll hear some staple guns. This is where other bits of the cabinets get finished. So the decals go on. The ground braid is installed. Speakers are installed, grates are installed, wiring harnesses are added. So they start off absolutely naked here, and then it is a cabinet ready for a playfield by the time it gets to the end. The social media guys love videoing the decals going on. It is pretty satisfying. It's kind of scary. I don't know if I'd want to do it, I'd screw it up. It is cool, but they have like a little spray that makes it so the adhesive doesn't set, and then they wipe it all out. And we want to step in here just a little bit, just try not to get in everyone's way. Like, look, here's like another piece of specialized equipment, right? This fits a cabinet. So the edges of the cabinet fit here, it centers on the speaker hole, and now you have a convenient little cart to push things around and it won't fall off. But what happens, right? So we don't manufacture parts, right? We don't take raw pieces of steel and then make them into something. We'll get those from vendors, but we do a lot of hand assembly of those goods, right? So, for example, right here, this lady is putting together harnesses for the action button, right? So we're taking a harness that we made, we're soldering a switch onto it, we're soldering an LED onto it, and now it's something that's ready to be put into the cabinet. It's happening all up and down this line here, but everything over here has to do with the head and the cabinet, right? Trying to see, because now we're getting into breaks, and it might give us more time to get into people's areas, but I think it's a break for wiring right now. These guys aren't leaving.
Red shirts?
The red shirts, but not like Star Trek red shirts. They have a higher survival rate. Yeah. Right, so here's the things, right? When we walk and see what are being put into these cabinets, what do we see here, right? Leg plates for the legs to attach to. There's the little leg guards that get screwed into the side of the cabinet and the bolts that hold the legs into it. There's shooter rods right here. There's the interlock switch that gets put into the cabinet to cut the high power. All of those things are being added to this cabinet as they get scooted down the line. Like, this is the bracket that the lockdown bar goes into, right? It's all these little things that add up to make one big thing. Here's side rails for a Pro Premium game, right? There's plumb bobs, all of the things. This is where, yeah, the carts run up and down these. So at this point, right, we're kind of to the end of the cabinet line. So like just to show, right, we have a cabinet that now has hinges for the head, coin doors, the flipper buttons are in, the shooter rods are in, these things are done and ready to be mated up with a head. And that's what's being done over there. So that lady right there is putting on decals onto the side panels of the head. Those guys on those yellow racks down there, those guys are putting heads together. Everything gets put together in a stage, right? It's an assembly line. Everyone kind of knows what that is now. Thanks, Henry Ford. We will talk about this area later. This is like where final assembly is, but to keep it the production linear, we'll see this at the end. So let's walk around here and we'll go to the sub-assembly line. So I mentioned like this factory is a lot better laid out than our old place, right? Because in some bits, like, you know, the people that would be making the flippers would be like way over in one corner, but then the area that they would be installed on the playfield would be like way over there. So this area we're in now is the sub-assembly line. So under both of these hoods here, those are our two production lines. We're not using production line 2 right now. If we needed to, we could run 2 games at once. We're running 1 production line. So the sub-assembly area is to allow things to be built and then handed off to the line where they need them. What is a sub-assembly? A sub-assembly would be something like this, right? It is a lot of parts put together to make one part, right? So you have your routed piece of wood, you have some plastics installed, a wiring harness with all of your lamps, the diverter assembly for King Kong. All that gets put together and now it's one unit that can be installed on the game. Because it's a lot easier to do that stuff like separately than having them do it on the line, right? So that is why this is so important. Everything in a pinball game kind of is a sub-assembly. We get all of the little individual pieces to make a flipper and then we assemble them here and then put them on the game. What I will tell you is that on this line, like we can run multiple games in a day. I have seen them like switch the line 3 times and make 3 different play fields in one day, which is pretty wild. You know, to be able to start at 6 in the morning making Foo Fighters and end it making D&D because that's where the demand is, right? Look at, it's a box full of bubble levels. Didn't you know isn't that really boring? Remember that there are a lot of people out there that buy pinball games that know absolutely nothing about pinball, and giving them the slightest reference of something makes a big difference. Yeah. Case in point with like the Costco games, right? There's a lot of people that didn't know pinball existed at 2 o'clock, but they come home with a Star Wars pinball at 5 o'clock, and now they, you know, need to learn about pinball. I talked to a guy a couple weeks ago that bought his Star Wars. He said like 3 weeks before we talked on the phone, he bought his Star Wars at Costco, and then he went and bought a Deadpool and a Godzilla. In 3 weeks, he went from 0 pinball to 3 pinballs. And that is why that game is so important, to get it in front of audiences like that, you know? So come on down. So again, this is where all that stuff is made. We're putting together ramps on Star Wars. You get the bare ramp, you slap an Opto and a TIE Fighter on it, and now it's ready for Star Wars, right? You get a nice big bushel of spinners. If you really love someone, you can give them a bouquet of spinners and, I don't know.
Put all of that on one game.
All of these on one game would be pretty, now you sound like Jack. But right, that's a sub-assembly, right? We take a harness, we take a bracket, we put a spinner in it, put an Opto, dang, it's done, you know? Kong gongs of kickers. You got Kong gongs, man. Got the whole Kong gong right here.
Dong.
That's not what I said. You got Jaws fins, you got Jaws sharks, you got the flippers, right? There are people here that put together flippers all day long. These are all standard, right? There's a lot of real standard parts in your pinball game. Every single game uses at least 2 of those. Every single game uses at least, you know, a slingshot, right? So those parts are like the same game to game. So I'm pretty sure like efficiency is maxed on those. But when it comes to the other stuff, and that's what we'll talk about down here. So now we've got, these areas are a little more specialized sub-assembly. So like over here, they're building like accessories and stuff, like toppers, shaker motors, shooter rods, and stuff like that. There's a bunch of naked Metallica toppers, right? There's samples of a lot of the toppers so people can take a look and just have a reference. Over here, there's more complicated sub-assembly stuff, like, you know, building the Sentinel or building your Mandalorian playfield, Carnage, right? So you've got visual references when you're putting things together. There's a lot of Kongs. So if they're gonna run a bunch of Sentinels, right, they'll have all those parts there and then be building them and getting them ready for the games.
Well, I'm just thinking on the sample one, the first one.
Oh,
built.
okay, so let's talk about that since we're getting to the playfield line now, but like, who builds the samples? Like, how do you make a pinball game? So the real dirty, quick way to explain it, you've got a designer who comes up with an idea, right? And they're going to take and try to build like a physical sample of it. Some people go straight for wood, like Keith, and just start drilling things and putting things together. Some people, like Jack, would use foam, and he would cut like pieces of foam and try to figure out like, how do I want this, right? Then you hand that off to an engineer. An engineer kind of finalizes that a little. It's like, okay, we'll build this ball guide this way, we'll put it here, we'll put it here. You'll send that stuff off to the model shop. The shop will then make some rough parts and you'll try to make a pinball game, right? So there's a couple revisions of a whitewood. You know, you'll do your real rough one, maybe a little bit more of an official one. You'll lay out your inserts and then be like, yeah, you know, this game's coming together. I think we're ready to try. So then what we'll do is we'll make something called like a DV, or a design validation game, right? So that's when sometimes we'll have some official parts, some are handmade, and we'll put a game together. Does it work, right? Does this shot actually do what I want it to do? Does the Sentinel actually do what I want it to do? If that goes through, everything's good, everything's pretty laid out, we know exactly how we want our ball guides, then we're going to make something, we'll do like an official DV, and that's when all the, we'll have arted playfields, we'll have like official parts coming in from vendors, and everything's finalized. Okay, this game's great, let's get it ready to go in production. Then we'll do a production validation game where we're using all finalized parts, and that is when the production engineer is like, okay, how the hell do we build this? And second off, can it be built? And that's when the production line makes some. So for example, the Star Wars games you're playing outside are production validation games. Those are the first ones run down the line. And then once everything's like, yep, awesome, then they go serialized production, right? That's when games start going into boxes, going to arcades and distributors and stuff like that. So there's a lot of experimentation in between that, and also remember, it's like generally the schedule for making a game is like 14 months. 14 months from nothing to being done and putting it down the line. It's pretty fast.
What drives that? Licensing? Am I allowed to
That's
ask
just the schedule, the cadence that we put these games out at most of the time. Like on average, it's 14 months. Sometimes they're a little shorter. Sometimes they're a little bit longer.
How long from when the TV games were made until you launch
That's more complicated, depending on certain factors, right? I mean, it could be weeks. It could be ready to go at that time.
only weeks? I thought it'd be like months at least.
Sometimes. It depends, right? It depends on the situation and so many other factors that are way above my pay grade and knowledge level. But yeah, that's kind of how you make a pinball game. So now let's see how that's actually done. So it's 1985, right? I wasn't born in 1985, but I'm sure it was a good time. Pinball was a big thing, right? Space Shuttle was making all sorts of money, and the Japanese really wanted to get into pinball, right? So Data East is like, okay, we want to make a pinball company. We want to build pinball. And they tried to find someone who currently wasn't working in pinball, and that person was Gary Stern. So Gary Stern teamed up with Joe Kamikow and all the other original people to start up Data East Pinball in America. And to build a pinball, you need a lot of specialized tools, right? So you have to go around and buy stuff. This machine here is a 4-post hydraulic press. It squishes 2 plates together hydraulically. It's really simple, but it is specialized because it is for pinball. So in the 80s, Gottlieb moved their factory from, they were moving a factory from like Northlake, which is out in the suburbs, to somewhere else, or they were downsizing or something. One of the many restructurings of Gottlieb, right? And they got rid of this press. This thing is from the 60s. And Gary found it at an industrial surplus store, right? I guess that's where you buy big pieces of equipment. And the reason this is special, it does have the Gottlieb tag here, so come take a look. This machine has pressed and dimpled every single Data East, Sega, and Stern pinball game ever made. So every single Simpsons, Laser War, Checkpoint, both Godzillas, right? Every single game has gone through this press, and that's just really cool. It is like a really crazy important part of this company's lineage, and all it does is press 2 plates together. It's so simple. But why is this important, right? So a playfield, these are drilled. Let me look at these ones. These playfields, right, they come from they get made, they get screened, they're clear coated, and then we talked about the drill plate, right? That's what happens right here. This guy drills the small holes. But this machine, it places these teeny little dimples all over the playfield. And what they are is they're spotting marks. So when people are going in to install flippers or slingshots or pop bumpers, they've got all these teeny little holes in it to help guide, right, where the part goes. Without this, it's kind of like the Wild West, and you kind of got to guess and hope that everything lines up. It's a really simple step that's really important. I like to geek out over this thing because it's just insane, right? Like, who here has a Data East game? Who here has a Sega game? Who here has any Stern games, right? Any game, who here's played a Data East game? Right. Almost everyone, hopefully, right? Well, it's gone through this machine. The question is like, how do you get those things done? So part of the mechanical engineer's job, right, is figuring out where these things go. So the mechanical engineer lays out these things, and it's just a bed of nails. So a CNC router, figures out or builds these things, and they're pressed in. All this thing does is you stand here and push these buttons, and it goes. No, I've got to use it one time.
Yeah, can we press one?
I wish. Will you show these people the press? Come on, Javi.
Yeah.
Javier's my new favorite employee.
Javier's the best.
Employee of the month. We're working on it.
Do you know if it breaks? Has it been out of service for any period of
It
time?
requires maintenance, but it's just
Does that
a.
hurt production if that happens, I guess?
Oh, it definitely would. But it's a hydraulic press. It's got a reservoir of fluid and a bunch of pumps, so.
How often do you have to run
That's it.
That's it.
That's all it does.
Love it.
So then now check it out, right? So the small, that's all that thing does. But it's so important in actual production because part of manufacturing is repeatability and efficient repeatability. So being able to install those parts in the same spot every time is really paramount to making a consistent product, right? That's why stuff like this is so important. But it is such a simple machine, but it's really important. I don't know, it's kind of cool. I like to geek out over this one. Thank you. Unless you want a real flat hand. So the playfields, right? You see how they have, we'll show it at the end. the play fields on either side have 2 round holes, and that's what centers them on the plate. So if you've ever seen a naked play field like that, that's how they get them centered to make sure that they always land in the same spot too, right? Because the CNC router will be perfect 100% of the time. And that's why we get, see this hole? And then you see this hole over here? That's what centers it in that plate. And that's how you consistently get the same squishies every time.
Is squishy's a technical term?
It is now. So yeah, that's that. So the play fields come in from our wood shop, they're clear coated, everything's ready to go. This lady here, she does the inspections, make sure that everything's good. A little bit of buffing might happen with some Novus to get them real nice. Then they get pressed. Then they go to the drill plate. So let's go down the line now. Thank you. Thanks, Javier. Thanks, ma'am.
I notice the playfields have these color things on them now.
Yep, it's free because they're printed, right? So this allows the alignment and checking of the CMKY printers that do the artwork.
Did that start by any chance after Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
I don't know. I'm not sure on that one. I assumed it would start around the time that we went to digital printing like that, but... So there's the drill plate. So we've got the guy that does all the drilling right there with that drill plate, makes the holes too big, small for the CNC. And then as we go down the line, again, assembly line, more stuff gets added. So we're adding like T-nuts and studs. You're putting in like playfield rails here. Posts are going in. Rubbers are being installed. Ball guides are being installed. As we go down and we go through each step of the process, more and more gets added until we get to the end and it's a playfield. So let's walk along. The peeling of plastics, some things we want. So right, like look at this too, right? Most of the stuff that's gonna happen here for the next bit is all under playfield stuff, right? So the playfields aren't being flipped a ton, they're kind of being used in one manner. We've got, right, look, drop target banks are going on. We're getting, the node boards are installed. We're getting things that need to be soldered on, generally being put on now, because when we go down to this next step under the hood, right, this is a big fume extractor, so it takes all the nasty solder smoke and makes it go away. And this is where the harness gets introduced. So everything that should be soldered on is generally done here. Once the harness is soldered on, then we're moving into like harness fixing, right? So they're zip tying harnesses to the wire ladders. They're getting things like in the right spot. And other like preliminary pre-final building happens at this area, this station. We keep moving on down here, right? But now look at the sub-assembly area. We're getting ramps and all that stuff. That's because in this area, we're installing ramps and upper playfield things, right? So it's a real short, the little things make a big difference in the efficiency of a long process. Down here, we're not gonna go down here, but that's our machine shop. So that's the area where like we'll make prototype things. We'll maintain our equipment. Yep.
Can we go down there?
No. There's too much liability with big spinning machines and lots of metal and stuff like that. So
that's where they keep the secret games. So
all the secrets. Well, okay, so right on the other side of that wall there is the lab. So that's where all the prototyping happens. And then right inside this area is where the torture room is, where we build things and then try to break them by making flippers go like 10 million times, or like building all of our test fixtures, right? So like someone asked on the last tour about like testing. So like how does that work? We take a playfield, and then we drill some wood onto the playfield so there is a coil that kicks a ball into something. John Wick, right? We got the car that kind of comes in and out. So you'll write a program and there's a ball laying there on a coil and just kicks it at the car like 5-10 times. And then the car is gonna go like 50 times. And then the car is gonna stay in another position. You're gonna shoot a ball at it 10 times. And it does that all day, every day, for months. A million cycles, right? Tons of cycles to see how does this work, how does it hold up. I mean, there's like a test fixture back there that has like 9 flippers on it that have like 10 million actuations on them each to see like how long they'll go before they wear out, to test and see how they work, right? There's a lot of testing that goes on. It's really loud, so you have to wear earplugs because there's just like clack, 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 clack. Playfields are being assembled, the top side, right? And once we get down here, it is basically King Kong, right? This is mostly what the game looks like. The last step is taking the games from this part of the line and putting them onto these rotisseries here. And these rotisseries, this is where the games are finalized, right? Things are plugged in, the back panel's put on. At this point, if everything was done perfectly, the playfield's done, it works, no problem. Where they go to next is right over here to final assembly, or final test, or to the testing area. Okay, so we've got a playfield that's done, right? Everything's been assembled, and we need to test it. So it's put into, like, this is a this is a Spike 2 pinball game. It's a power supply, a computer, and a screen. The rest of everything else is on the playfield, right? So we plug this thing in, we turn it on, and suddenly we can run the game, right? We can test every switch, every lamp, every coil. These rotisseries allow for working on both sides. It's almost lunchtime.
I thought you broke it.
Working on both sides of the playfield. And what these guys are doing are they're testing lamps, making sure the lamps are stuck in the socket right, testing the coils. Are the pop bumpers adjusted okay? Are these things adjusted okay? Right, does everything work? If so, the games then, let's squeeze through here if you're just careful, mind the head. Just in case. At this point, the playfield is going to get mated with a cabinet, right? So we've got a lot of cabinets that are empty, awaiting playfields, building a lot of jaws here. Once they're in the cabinet, you're going to go over to the next level, which is like the final testing, etc. Come over here. Hey, Nick. So these folks are like, at the final inspection, final testing area, these are the people that are like the most experienced, most in tune, right, with what we're building, folks in the production side. So what's going on here now is we're testing the game with its own equipment, right? We're powering up the CPU that it's going to live with, or with the power supply, and we're making sure everything is perfect once it's in the cabinet, right? So another LED test, another coil test, is everything perfect? Since these guys are the ones that are, most in tune with what's going on, if they catch anything, the games get sent over to kind of the triage area, and that's where people will go and fix them, just in case. Maybe something wasn't caught along that long line of checks, right? They'll be able to fix them over there. But this is kind of the end. Once the game is in its cabinet and being run with its own electronics, it gets a couple flips, you play half a game, you turn it off, you fold it up, and get it ready to put in a box. And that's what happens over here. So this is export, right? Games are in boxes, trucks show up, we load them full of pinball games, and then they go to happy customers around the world. Are there any questions? Because this was real easy, right? Like, we could totally make a game now. Yeah. Pinball's really simple. There's not a lot of work that goes into it. We could absolutely just make a game together, right? No?
Can we?
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
Y'all are using every square inch of this space.
Yeah.
How soon before, would you say it was 20,000 square feet? Or, sorry, what was the square feet?
I mean, it was almost 2 times as big as the old place.
Yeah,
so
sorry,
can you imagine our own old building?
Sure,
Yeah.
even smaller. But sorry, when is this one not going to accommodate, sir?
Couldn't answer that. Okay. I don't know. I mean, it's like, the thing is it's like we rely on, we do have to store a lot of stuff here because we don't have like a huge amount of place to like store games, and they take up a lot of room.
Okay.
So I don't know. I feel like this place is kind of future-proof, but I mean, everyone would always like a bigger building because there's more room. You don't have to be on top of each other. But at least we're not all 3 people to an office like in the old building.
Sure.
That was insane. Maybe if we ask nice enough, can we see a game being born? Oh no, it's break time.
Everybody literally just.
It's break time. You don't get to see a game being born. Sorry. But just imagine, watch. You take that box and you shove it in, and then the game goes in the box. And that's.
I do that?
Nick can do it. No, you won't. Look at Javier is the best, right?
He is literally the best.
The king of Humboldt Park.
Thank you. So this is like the reverse of having a baby. And it's in.
That's it.
Take it out and put it back in.
So,
Yeah. Can you do that like 4 times quickly?
So thanks, guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So once the games are here, right, once everything's good, they get serialized, they get their serial number, the goodie bags and the coin box go in the game, they get their translate, everything gets packaged, shoved in a box, and it's done. That's it. It's all recorded, and it goes into a box to someone's house. You've kind of seen everything. This is not, that first group got to see this too, but I've never been here when they've done this on a tour, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
How many games do you make in like a day or a week?
I can't tell you exact numbers, but it's a lot. We can definitely, we are very capable of putting out a decent amount of games. Any other questions before we start meandering back inside where it's cooler and there's more stuff to do?
Are these banners a different size than the typical ones?
Yeah, they have to be.
Yeah, they're huge. Those are enormous.
We printed some of them before Expo last year to make this place look even cooler. So yeah, they must have done it in a bigger scale.
3 times bigger.
Yeah, I never really
not a
thought about
banner
that.
for ants,
Good eyes.
Paul.
I've never thought about that.
Can I have one?
No. I'm not tall enough to get them, so.
Mustang one is dope.
The Mustang one is awesome. Did everyone see our Mustang inside? We found a Mustang LE in a box in a warehouse, and now we have Mustang LE here, and it's really fun.
That's awesome.
I love that game. It's got the coolest soundtrack of any game we've ever made. I mean, you've got the Edgar Winter Band and Blink-182 in the same game. It's just wild. It's like 2 ends of a spectrum. These are our old SAM testing boxes, right? For the SAM system, the like previous. So that's why you've got Sopranos, Harley Davidson, Avatar heads on these these test boxes. We did like 5 years ago. Star Trek, I think, was the last SAM system game we made. Sam.
Good old Sam.